I've gotten to know quite a few of you, either during the admissions process or in the last few days moving into the villas, or just this morning outside. It always amazes me when I meet new people that each one is distinct. Some of you know I like to say no two students are identical, so why do we create these very simplified tracks and try to put them through fixed templates? Of course you have to do some of that, but the whole point of a liberal education is to let the talent, the uniqueness of the talent, drive the developmental process. So it's always a balance between fostering that and being able to administer that, since you cannot easily cater to every single distinct talent. But that's really what, as I look back on my own life, I've always wanted to help the kid who is curious, who wants to find something meaningful in life, but does not necessarily fit into any of the standard tracks. And I'll always be there for those kids, if they're willing to take that step. I was also struck this morning, and looking out at all of your faces, that this separation of those on the stage and those in the audience, we need to better bridge. Because the university, while there are people with designated titles and designated roles, it only works if each person feels that they are making an important contribution, and if each person feels some kind of moral, emotional ownership connection to the institution. I have had the good fortune to spend quite a bit of time at some of the finest universities in the world. And as I thought about what makes them what they are, there are lots of things that we can say. But there are a few that stand out. And the more experience I get with more institutions in the United States as well as in India, the clearer it is to me what makes a truly great institution. What makes the institutions that are on everybody's lips, most of them abroad, what makes them what they are, and what we need to do in India. And the formula is not what most people think it is. It's essentially about people. It's about attracting, retaining, and empowering the most talented faculty and students. Full stop. I used to think this was a simplistic idea. It's not my original idea. It's something that one of my mentors kept insisting on. He just stepped down as the president of Harvard. Larry Bacow had been the president of Tufts University when he hired me. He would say this, and we would say, well, it's more complicated than that. But I really now have come to see that that's true. Everything else is icing on the cake. It's those sparks that occur when you put people together into an ecosystem. That's what makes these institutions great. People, the most successful impactful faculty around the world at the institutions that we all recognize see themselves as semi-autonomous intellectual entrepreneurs who are looking for a platform where they can engage with students who are interested in learning and they can advance knowledge in creative work. And the most interesting students who are attracted to these institutions are ones who want to be in that mix with those faculty as well as with other students who come. So I think people who've worked with me know that's what I always want to bring every conversation back to, that fundamental fact. Because on a day-to-day basis, particularly as an administrator, we get sucked into 1,000 different things. And it's always important to come back. So to the students, new students, I hope that you will engage with your faculty and your fellow students. It's really up to you to take advantage of this ecosystem of people that we have created. So as the founder chancellor mentioned, we're one of a kind in offering a liberal education that spans more than the arts and sciences. It also spans technology and law, so that our students have some shared academic experience which they are unlikely to find at other institutions where a law school stands alone and an engineering school stands alone. Why would we do such a thing? Well, first of all, there's not a single major societal problem that I can think of today that can be solved by a single discipline or by a single profession. Those days are gone. I have tried and I've challenged people to come up with a single major problem, be it an environmental problem, an economic problem, a health issue, a political issue, whose solution can be found squarely within an academic discipline or an established profession, and I cannot think of a single one. So this model, which has evolved and been very effective over a little over a century, which was invented in Germany actually, of creating knowledge verticals to promote rigor, has made enormous contributions to rigor. But it's no longer sufficient. Of course, we need to continue with the rigor of the disciplines, the verticals, but we also need the lateral connections. And that's where huge, I would say infinite opportunity lies for students to connect law and technology, to connect the arts and technology, to connect these dots. They're there for you to connect to the students. To anybody who says everything that's interesting has been discovered, that's not true. There's an infinite number of things out there for you to pursue, whether to discover or to start a company for or to study further. The other thing that is true today more than ever else before is that you, the students, will have to re-educate yourselves continuously throughout your life to stay ahead of AI. AI will be nipping at all of our heels. And we need to accept that challenge assertively by continuously climbing the cognitive ladder, continuously finding ways to add value to our lives and to society that we uniquely can add. That's why it's not just factual knowledge that matters. Of course, we need to know the facts of a discipline. But a lot of cognitive skills, including deploying the imagination and creativity, including critical thinking, integrating information, analyzing information, communicating it succinctly. Human beings were still ahead of computers on these things. But AI is coming at us very, very fast. I personally see it as an opportunity for education to reform. Now, as I was meeting people this morning thinking, bridge the gap between the stage and the audience, we should think more of ourselves as one big family. So I'm going to do some family introductions. Let me first introduce our stage party. You've met our distinguished founder and chancellor, Mr. K.V. Ramani. You've met me, and you've met Professor Akela Ramnarayan, who is our Dean of the School of Arts and Sciences, as well as Director of Undergraduate Education, which is a position that I designed to specifically try to keep promoting the lateral, horizontal connections between the verticals. Because if you leave things to themselves, disciplines, departments, schools tend to become silos. I'll introduce one by one, and I'll kind of flip back and forth between the academic leadership and the administrative support leadership. We have Mr. Philip Stanley, who is the registrar, controller of examinations, and the director of operations. We have Professor Anjana Raghavan, who many of you know already. She's our Director of Student Experience and is there, how many hours are there in a day? 24, well, she's there 25 hours per day, responding to student needs. Coming back to this side, we see Mr. Amit Tripathi, who is the Director of Finance. Professor Kavita Deshpande, who's our Associate Dean of the School of Computing and Data Science. Dr. Vivek Shivhare, who's Director of Admissions, and I think responsible for bringing some of you here. Professor Subba Rao Toletti, Professor of Biological Sciences, as well as our Director of Research, Innovation and Collaboration, which is now a UGC statutory role as India seeks to establish itself in research. Mr. Vijay Sarthi is our Director of Projects and Construction. He has a tough job. Going back to the other side, Professor Maya Ranganathan, Professor of Media Studies, who also advises me as Director of Academic Compliance, which is a thorny area as India moves into this new era of the new education policy. Ms. Reshma DB is our new head of Human Resources. Professor Shiju is a professor of law and deputy dean of the law school. Online, last but not least, is Professor Reena Patel, who couldn't be with us tonight, is dean of the School of Law. Now I'm going to do something unusual. The faculty are the intellectual core of the institution. So I'd like faculty to rise and turn around so that people can see those who are going to be providing the education to your sons and daughters. And I would say the faculty on the stage also please rise. Yeah, and the teaching fellows as well. Teaching fellows, teaching assistants, they're all on the front line with the students. Thank you. It used to be the case back when I was an assistant professor before the internet that you could manage your time as a professor. If a student needed to ask you a question, they had to come to your office hour. Or they had to come after class to see you to make an appointment. Those days are gone because students will email you, they'll text you any time of day and night. Mostly night. Late. Very late. About some project that's due 9 o'clock in the morning. So the faculty job has become literally a 24/7 thing. I'd like to ask our staff who work daily in the trenches very hard from the moment you enter the front door of the building, and many of whom are in back offices that you don't always see. Important members of our family, and of course, including those who are here. All of you, please stand. Yeah. Thank you. Now, parents and guardians, you have done your duty. Obviously, you have done that well in bringing up your sons and daughters so that they can now go off to college. And I would say it's time now for you to let your sons and daughters find their wings. Let go. Meanwhile, please stand up so we can thank you, and your sons and daughters can thank you for having brought you to this point. Yeah. I know it's difficult for a parent or a guardian to let go. Please be seated. You know, I mean, this is probably the first time your children have left home, but they'll be fine. Everything is not going to be smooth, but that's life. These 3, 4, 5 years that they spend as undergraduates is the best time in life where they're going to learn about life before they have to go into the workforce or postgraduate where it becomes more professionally oriented. Now, our senior students, which means the students in our first batch and the second batch, who are the ones who carry the hope of the institution. And I know that there are many concerns about things that they expected that didn't happen when they joined. But I remain determined, as do all of us, to continue to provide a once-in-a-lifetime experience that you will look back on. So please, our first and second batch students, stand up. Not all of them are here. Many of them have served as volunteer ushers today. Many of them have designed the one-week orientation that first-year students will go through starting this evening. And many of them will serve as mentors. You may sit down. Okay, so finally, the most important people is the new students. Will the new students please rise? Now, most of the time, I think I'm a pretty light-hearted guy. But right now, I think it's time for a little bit of solemnity. This is an important step in your lives. You're going to make mistakes, we all do. And the test of character is what you do after you make a mistake, or you see a good friend of yours make a mistake, and how you get back up and become a better person. So I want you to think about a few things. I know when I was your age, when people said things like this that I call pithy, you know, kind of very serious, we don't really think much about it, you know, because we want to go off and have fun. Fine. But someday, I want you to think about this. I want you to commit to a few things. But I also want you to have the freedom to believe and express. So I won't ask you to repeat what I say. I will simply ask you to shout yes or no, or just be quiet, whether you agree with it or not. 3 or 4 things. 1, I commit myself to develop myself intellectually, emotionally, and ethically to the very best of my ability. Oh, please, you can do better than that. Oh, okay. I commit myself to respect everyone, regardless of religion, caste, gender, economic status, or title. Yes. Good. I commit to using my education to helping those less fortunate. Yes. I want you to recognize that you are all extremely fortunate. I know many of you have come from impoverished backgrounds, and you have fought against the odds to get here. But being here, you are fortunate, and I want all SAI students and SAI alumni and graduates to go through life feeling the sense that I was fortunate. I need to use some of my time, some of my skills, some of my success to help others less fortunate. I commit to waking up at dawn every morning and studying for 2 hours before breakfast. Dr. DeVate, admissions, you didn't tell them? You forgot to tell them? Oh, I guess okay, he didn't tell you all. So the next batch will have to do that. Okay. Well, we will proceed with the program. You are now formally inducted as students of SAI University.